Hey everyone, I have a very, very exciting show for you today. I have someone here that has flipped 7,000 homes, got smoked in the last crisis, and has successfully survived COVID-19 plus some other health events this year. So we are going to talk about all of those things, but most importantly, we are going to orient you towards the future and what you need to be doing now to get ready to take care of the future. So Lee Carney, how you doing, sir?
Doing good.
Hey man, let's talk about you first. How are you doing physically? I know it's been a rough, let's call it 4 months. You want to catch everybody up on what's been going on?
Sure. It's kind of an embarrassing track record and maybe not a list I enjoy going over, but I was on a really good health run for about 4 years and then got bronchitis right after Christmas, then got bronchitis again, then had a heart scare. I didn't realize I had a blockage in my widowmaker, which was shocking to find out at 41. So basically the wheels fell off right when I turned 41. Then got bronchitis again, then got pneumonia, then was diagnosed with COVID and was in hospital for a week, almost like fighting for my life. I was on a lot of oxygen and was struggling to breathe. And I thought I may have to go on a ventilator. For those who are watching this, just look at the statistics for people with COVID on a ventilator. It's not a pretty ending. So
no, that's not a list you want to
I
be
was
on.
super blessed to survive that without getting political. Hydroxychloroquine saved my life.
Good.
Levaquin wasn't working, and I begged them to put me on hydroxychloroquine. They finally did. Within 2 days, I was off oxygen, kicked out of the hospital. But it's been a rough recovery. You know, I went to the ER the first time on the 21st of March. And then they didn't actually kick me out, told me I wasn't sick enough. Went back to the 25th, was in bad shape, 104 fever, pneumonia, and just like really disorientated. So they finally admitted me. So yeah, it's been a little over a month, and it's been a rough month recovery. So today, I'm probably about 70%. Still not back, but you know, I'm a lot better than what I was a month ago.
So for the people that think this is just the flu, what do you have to say to that kind of talk track?
I say that, you know, it's down to perspective. So my perspective is I had pneumonia and got COVID. So it's like pouring gasoline in the fire.
Okay.
So for me, it was just a really deadly combo. I think for other people and people I've talked to, it's been more like a mild flu or even a heavy flu, but not bad enough to go to hospital. And then I've talked to other people personally that went through the same thing I did, kind of went right to the edge of the cliff and survived. And worst case, I actually have my business partner's wife in one of my businesses, so I'll just keep her name off of this podcast, but 3 out of her 8 family members died from COVID in the last couple of weeks. So I've seen the full gamut of it not being a big deal to just destroying families. Yeah. And even besides the virus, just the economic shutdown, I've seen it all the way from my mentor sitting on his 105-foot yacht, not with a care in the world, to people's lives just being destroyed. So I've just seen the reach of this virus goes well beyond the virus. It's affected a lot of people a lot of ways.
Yeah, and the thing that I heard in the story you just went through that I don't think is being talked about enough is, okay, once you're discharged from the hospital, you still have a long recovery. At least that's what I heard you say. And
correct.
I don't think that's talk. I mean, that's
no,
just
it's not.
real.
And I just got tested negative finally. They say 15 days. And then I went back just before I went to see my son, and I was told I still have it. So the statistics are throwing out about 2 weeks in quarantine is not accurate either. So I think it depends on how severely the virus affected you. It affects your recovery and affects how long it stays in your system. I'm not a doctor. I'm not claiming to be a doctor. I'm just giving you my personal experience. It took over a month to get out of my system. So that's for me personally. Am I still contagious even though I'm testing positive? I don't have all those answers. But, people in my situation have been doing lots of research now. You got to remember, the research is only coming out.
Yeah, it's like 2 months old. Yeah.
Right. It's like a learn as you go. And it looks like people in my shoes are about 6 to 8 week recovery.
Well,
my lungs are severely damaged. I mean, it was tough.
Really, so when you say severely damaged, do you think that'll last years?
The research is coming out on that.
Okay.
That's a hot debate whether you will get better or it is going to leave permanent damage. There's mixed reports on almost everything you and I have discussed in the last 5 minutes. Yeah. One person will show you a report saying hydroxychloroquine kills people. The other one tells you it saves your life. with me, it saved my life. So,
There you go.
I
Well,
can
let's
only
just
point.
talk about you. Yeah. Yeah. And again, so I spoke with you, or at least I was on a conference call with you or Zoom call with you 3 weeks ago, and your energy level is better today than it was, whatever that was.
For sure. Yeah. I was sucking wind 3 weeks ago. I mean, literally.
Yeah.
That was tough. I was
Yeah.
about a week or so out of hospital. And yeah, I was very, very weak. And you may not see over Zoom call, but I'm shaking and lost a lot of weight. And
Yeah.
I'm probably somewhere back in between a lot of the weight loss and a little bit of weight loss. But yeah, it's been a rough ride for sure.
All right. Well, let's hope you're on the uptrend. You're getting better at it, and I wish you nothing but well on the health front. You've had you're done. Nothing else in 2020. Everything else just.
Well, actually, post COVID, I did get bronchitis
Oh,
again.
jeez.
Yeah.
That's enough of that, man. Come on.
I know. It's just it's a weak immune system. So I'm not mad staying indoors, and I go out a little bit, but not very much. I'm spending 80-90% of my time at home right now.
There you go. Well, so am I. My wife's in the high risk category, so yeah, we're just staying home. I think I've driven my car once in 6 weeks, which is abnormal. I used to drive it down the street to get a cup of coffee. So
I get it.
Yeah,
I get it. Yeah, and I'm hoping that I really want things to go back to normal. People keep talking about the new normal, people staying at homes. I don't buy into that. I just, I believe we live in the greatest country in the world. I think it was smart for a period. I do. This is my personal thing. To shut down things, if nothing else, forget the virus, to give the government time to stockpile supplies, to make sure they could treat people. But right now in Florida, we got way more ventilators than sick people. And so we're starting to open things back up, and it's good. It's a good thing. We need to get back to work, and I'm excited to see everybody back with a smile on their face. So.
Very, very cool. Well, let's talk about real estate, because that's what this channel is, investment real estate specifically.
Yep.
You and I both, when did you start? When was your first purchase? What year roughly?
Accidental purchase in 2003, started intentionally investing in 2004.
Yeah. So you and I started right around the same time. My first was a single family home. I think it was late December 02, but let's just call it 03. So you and I started before. It's kind of a good run, right? At least you were in Florida then as well. Yes.
PreBubble. Yeah.
Yeah. PreBubble, right? It was like this.
Yeah.
And then, not so much. Can you, paint the picture of when you realized you were on the other side of the mountain? Do you remember when that was?
I do. We purchased, you're going to laugh about what I'm going to say, purchased 2 new construction homes in 2006 for rentals.
Okay.
And actually they were flips. So, we bought them pre-construction, got them, and put them back in the market. No showings. Drop the price. No showings. Drop the price. No showings. And that's when I had the moment and realized this isn't 2005. The party started slowing down here in Florida in 2006. And then people realized that, and that's when all the scams came out in 2006 and 7, because people refining, getting these huge mortgages because they already knew that was the end of the cycle, because the only way to make money was through a refi. That may sound similar to what's going on today. Does that sound a little bit similar?
A little bit. Yeah.
Teaching techniques. Well, this is how you make money in real estate. Cash out all of your equity. I'm like this stuff was illegal 12 years ago. People were going to jail for teaching this stuff. And now investors are teaching other investors to cash out as an income stream. I'm like, I can't deal with this. This is,
it's not
how
okay.
about buy with appreciation in mind. Make sure you got great cash flow, a big delta between what your debt is and what your rent is. So you got a great debt coverage service ratio. But now it's like, max it out, cash out, cash out, cash out. Like,
that stuff drives me crazy. It's disingenuous. It's fly by night. It doesn't survive a downturn. All these gurus that have been around for 5 years never saw a downturn. They're hurting people.
Yeah, I would agree with. And then actually, if you layer another layer of risk on top of that, by the way, not only pull all the cash out, make sure that the money you don't have, you get from other investors.
Yeah, exactly.
Put them in the riskiest position possible, where they're not even a lender with leverage in your property. They're an equity partner. With a junior ownership that's going to get wiped out in any kind of a modification or whatever you have to do to reposition the asset once you realize it's over leveraged. It's crazy.
It's crazy.
I'm seeing it all. And now I think there's some fantastic people that, teach about, intelligent borrowing that I work with, they're now saying, hey, like, you might want to be looking 60, 65%, if you are, it means you got to buy better, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of just trying to buy bad and still make money on a deal. Yeah. And that's just not going to work right now. And I found myself rehabbing in 2006 and 2007, right into a downward market, buying rentals at negative cash flow. I mean, the things I'm telling you are really dumb, but you start to have a dozen properties losing money, tenants moving out, repairs needed. Every flip, you're bringing 20, 30 grand to closing. I mean, I just got buried literally overnight. It was about fourth quarter 2007. I told my wife at the time, I said, we're done. So we got to stop paying everything. We have no money. Like, we have to just try to mitigate our debt at this point. I said, my new job is debt mitigation. And so I went head on with short sales, negotiating unsecured debt. It took me about a year and a half to work my way out of that mess. Real mess I got myself into. And the sky was bright before that. You know, I made a couple $1 million, mid-20s. I'm thinking I'm the stuff at this point. Midas, everything I touch is gold. And the rug was pulled out from underneath me literally in days.
Yeah. And I want people to hear this because, again, a lot of folks still aren't adjusting. Now, the one thing about 08, I'll just call it 08 because it could be 06, you know, whatever.
I'm talking about the beginning of things cooling off, but I agree with you. Like, the crap hit the fan in 2008.
Yeah. And people right now don't realize that it's already hit the fan, and it's just hitting the fan faster. And one thing that's very different is forbearance is talked about today, where in 06, right, all the banks were saying, hey, I won't even talk to you till you're 90 days late. I don't know if that was the same thing in Florida, but that's what they were telling people in California.
It is. And you know what? I think that history will write whether proactively kicking the can down the road or just letting the chips fall where they may is a better move. But either way, if you let a borrower go 90 days delinquent, or you give them 90 days and they're still not going to pay, what's going to happen this post-COVID, they've kicked the can down the road 90 days. I don't know if one's better than the other. I think the ethical borrower and the one that truly had a loss of income or in some sort of crisis in their life, they're going to pick right up and pay their mortgage. But ultimately, you've seen this last cycle. When people stop paying their mortgage, so when your neighbor, we'll call it your neighbor, so you're the good neighbor paying. When your neighbor stops paying, their debt goes up, prices start coming down, and eventually, when the two meet each other, it happens faster because that's what caused people to go underwater. It's not just values coming down. The stopping paying is increasing what they owe. And I just got off a show a little while ago, and I was describing the only people who can sell then are banks. They either can discount it before the sale, sell it at the sale at a discount, or sell it after the sale at a discount. But the regular homeowner is upside down. So I'm seeing that, the forbearance is good for people that are going to use it correctly. But for other people, it's like, I just got another 3 months before you start my current month to then wait another 90 days to then mark me delinquent, right? So it's in that case, it's almost like a 6-month buy.
Yeah, exactly. I think again, I lived through the last one and profited really well. I think what they're doing this time is they're actually stretching out the process, because some people that get 90 days will get 6 months, and then some people get 6 months will get 12 months. We're going to have 2 or 3 years of this. I think that will be very different. I think last time, at least in California, it's the only market I can speak to. Once the banks figured it out in 08 that this was bad, they pretty much flushed everything in about 9 to 12 months, and then it was gone, right? It was over.
I actually agree with you. And if you look at the California market, I'm speaking general terms, so don't chop my head off here.
No.
About a 2-year period, start to finish, the market declined 60%.
Correct.
And so that's much shorter than Florida, where I remember the longest foreclosure that I purchased. It was a major bank. Could not get this person out. Her name was Cookie, the pastor in Miami. She was in foreclosure since 1999. I bought the asset from a major bank in 2016.
Wow.
Think about that. The foreclosure REO process, 17 years. I mean, it's a world record. She's an anomaly. I've never seen that. But you don't have that in a trustee state. For people who don't know, trustee says you didn't pay, send you to sale, the house is gone. We're in a judicial state here in Florida, as you know, which means you just keep filing motions. I need more time, judge. You're missing this document. Now you got to force the bank to go back 10 years and try to wipe off the dust and find the original document, send it to the clerk loses it, and then they forgot to do something with the foreclosure, and now the bank doesn't have the original doc because the clerk lost it, and now their homeowner has been reading law all night, every night for the last 2 years, said, you can't foreclose on me. Oh, it's gone past the statute of limitation. So I've seen all these games, but what I will tell you is the first wave is always the landlords. The landlords highly leveraged that have no attachment to the property. As soon as the tenant moves out, as soon as it's costing the money, they're done. Then the next wave is going to be the less educated borrower, we'll call it, and then the last wave is the more educated borrower that pulls out all the tricks in the book.
Yep.
Again, I'm talking about a judicial estate, not
Sure.
a trustee.
Sure.
Trustee is just rip the Band-Aid off. You didn't pay, you're gone. So
yeah, I think there's another thing that would be different. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. So
Sure.
08 was clearly single family homes, clearly, right? That's where the funny lending was, you know, homes or condos or whatever, right? Individual residential stuff. 2019, 20, it's going to be for them. I believe it'll be bigger in multifamily. There are so many apartment deals that were done with that equity, right?
The 80-20, yeah, the 80-20 stack.
Oh man, it's just, I think multifamily is going to get hit really, really hard, especially if anybody's got bridge debt, like those 3-year debt that they were hoping to value add apartment. Oh my, there's going to be pain for years. And those poor equity investors who just came along for the ride because bigger is better, done, gone.
Yeah, literally you can take that 20% stack, done. Yeah,
and they have no recourse.
I agree with that.
They were equity.
Yep,
Oh.
I definitely agree with you on that. For the people who didn't buy right. And
yeah, no, of course.
You and I are speaking to, just so we're clarifying this for everybody, people that bought at market.
Yeah.
So whether that's a wholesale price or retail price, if you bought at market and you've got a full 100% stack, you're done, because there's no wiggle room there. Your debt ratio, your debt coverage service ratio is tight. People stop paying rent. I mean, right now at the time of this recording, it's going to be May 1st tomorrow.
It is.
Everybody touted their big April numbers. I am so happy. And by the way, 3 years ago, I did have this. I don't have 300 rentals. I cannot tell you how happy, because I would be fully expecting at least 100 of those people not to pay.
Oh, now just so I clear, when you say you had 300, were those all houses or were they in apartments or just a mix? Or
mainly single family?
Yeah, I just before this recording, saw that Florida overtook California for unemployment. Just raw numbers, which is nuts, because California is much bigger than Florida.
The hospitality industry got whacked here. So basically, with no one in the hospitality industry able to work, that's what's put up those huge numbers. Huge. Yeah. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I still have about 150 units as of this recording. We did do 97% collection in April, but I play in the affordable market. So just so you know it is. So I'm in Fresno, California, Central Valley. Median is 250 for a home. You know, my houses are all 200 and below. And then I have apartments, C-class apartments. So we're going to find out what happened. But a lot of my tenants make more money staying at home with the $600 kicker. So. And that's a very interesting point, which is why I like Section 8. I've always had a great experience with Section 8. And so the place I like to hang out is CC+.
Yep, that's right. Everything.
That's the prime zone, because you got the best yields. You have a financeable product. I want to make sure people don't understand the terminology. If you're in a war zone, it's not a financeable product.
Not at all.
Yes, if you're in A zone, it's financeable. So you want to be at the lowest end, in my opinion, of financeable, which means you can buy it for cash, but when you want to unload it, you can sell it to a finance buyer. If you buy in a war zone, you buy for cash, you sell for cash. The price is always going to be low. It's always going to be a yield-based equation. You got higher turnover, higher damage to properties. I like working class neighborhoods. Yep. And not every street's the same. You got a street that's trashed. You got a street with mowed and edge yards. And it's literally the same zip code.
Yeah.
I bought my properties on nice streets.
Yep.
And so
totally
you buy them for 30, 40, 50. You sell them for 150, 160, 170, 180. I mean, winning. It's a good place to be. Really good place.
One thing I love about my story, again, you can call me lucky or good, and I don't really care which one it is. So I sold I did 1031 exchanges in 06.
Both.
I got out of houses and got into apartments. And then in 19, I was very vocal. I sold 25% of my portfolio, which was all apartments, in 19 to raise cash. Not knowing, I knew a recession was coming. I didn't know this was coming. Yeah, but sitting here with more cash than I've ever had, I'm pretty happy.
Yeah. Well, you got dry powder. The thing is, you don't want to be coming into this with no options, and cash gives you options. So. Yeah.
So that's where I wanted to take this conversation. Because again, we've been doing this 20 some odd years. I like to say that tomorrow is going to be different than yesterday. But a crisis is a crisis, and lending is lending. So what would you tell somebody who's got 5 years or less? So first off, all they know is good times. Let's talk to that person. 5 years or less, they've been killing it. They thought everything they touched turned to gold, to use your story from 05.
That's because the market is going up. Makes up for long rehabs, bad rehabs, over budget. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't
a party,
matter.
right? Double-digit returns every month, every year. So that way, if the market's climbing, it covers all of your mistakes.
But let's tell them that now the market's rolled over. And if they don't realize that today is different than yesterday, what happens?
Well, what's going to happen? You're not going to be conservatively underwriting. You're still going to be buying at market. And we need to flip to an acquisition mindset, which means focus on buying. That's where you put your effort. Because if you buy below wholesale, you can wholesale it, you can wholesale it, you can rent it, you can rehab it and flip it. You got options because you bought below wholesale. You have every option available to you as an investor, every option. But if you start paying market price, you're limiting your options. Now the lender can't refi you out. Now you can't make money on a flip. Now you can't wholesale because you bought it at wholesale. You bought it from the wholesaler. You're on the wrong side of the trade. They got you for 20 grand and now you're stuck holding the bag where you have to do something with the asset. So now you're forced to rent it. Now you try to get the valuation. You can't pull your cash out. You forced to rehab it. And you go to flip it. You can't make a profit. So this is where understanding which side of the trade to be on. In a choppy market, the goal is to control assets and not own them, number one. And the goal, if you are going to go beyond controlling and go to ownership, is shorten that revenue cycle, which means wholesale, light rehabs. And we try to beat up deals. We'll underwrite the sales price 10% cheaper. We'll raise the rehab. And if we still make a profit, we'll do the deal. But we've got a built-in risk already built in. So higher profit margin expectation, higher rehab estimate, lower resale price. Those three things give us a margin of error. I mean, a case in point, we're into an asset today for $211,000.
Okay.
Its market value, Zillow has a 380. It's probably 360, 370. Okay. We're into it for 211. It needs 30, 35 grand. I like a deal like that because I can wholesale it. I can wholesale it. So I can wholesale for 260, 270. I can wholesale for probably 300. I can retail for 360. I got options.
Right.
But you start buying the house at 250, you've killed your wholesale option, right?
You're right.
Or maybe 260. Let's just say you paid 50 grand more. Which, by the way, people would say, well, it was 100 grand in equity. You start really running the numbers on this stuff, you backed yourself into a corner, which is why we need to focus on acquisitions. Today, it's the homeowner. Tomorrow, it's going to be the bank. And people ask me, when's a good time to buy again and hold? Wait till the bank is the main seller in town. That's when you know it's a good time to buy, because that means that homeowners are upside down, the market's in disarray. And when the banks are liquidating large amount of assets, that's the time to build that rental portfolio if you're in a cyclical market, because the only incentive is to liquidate. They don't have an attachment to the home. It's just a problem for them. It's liability. Yeah,
they really, I bought 42 homes from banks and 2010 was my busiest year. Yep. Yeah, they have no attachment. It's a line on a spreadsheet.
Yep.
That's
right now they're doing forbearances, so it's still a performing loan.
Yeah, exactly. Technically perform.
Well, that's it though, because and this is what happened when things really, that degradation in 2008, where mortgage-backed securities, which is the biggest shame of all of this, where you've got something that's been leveraged multiple times. We're trading at 90 cents, then 80 cents. And then the big boys realize, okay, it's a fire sale. We're going to sell everything at 50 cents. And that's when people realize the crap's about to hit the fan. Yeah. And I remember back then, just to give you some perspective, again, I'm the small guy in the totem pole. Yeah. I bought a first mortgage for 2.5 cents on the dollar.
Wow.
2.5 cents. They were UPB was about 130,000. No, it was about 100,000. And then with late fees and everything, it was 129,000. So, but UPB was right around 100. I paid $2,500 for a first mortgage. So I called up the homeowner. I said, today's your lucky day. They said, what do you mean? I said, I'm going to pay you for a deed in lieu. Well, who are you? I just bought your mortgage. I'm the bank. They said, no problem at all. So I think I paid him $1,000, $2,000, got them to sign a quick claim deed or a deed in lieu of foreclosure. So now I control the paper, control the asset. We flipped. It wasn't huge. I mean, I think it was 30,000 or 25,000, something like that. But still, it was a bloodbath back then. But a bank, literally unloaded a first mortgage for 2.5 cents on the dollar. Wow.
Yeah. So a couple of things I want people to hear from this is, folks, this can get bad. The other thing that's not being said here, but is true, is this is going to take longer than you expect. Yep. Right.
Slow grind down. That's what I've been telling people. Yeah. They say, well, where's it going? I don't have a crystal ball, but what I reasonably believe, and I'm not pointing to 50% discount or 80%. What I am pointing to, is the fact that I really believe, for a lot of the reasons you mentioned, this is going to be a slow grind down. It's not the stock market.
No.
You know,
Yeah.
Trump doesn't speak and the market goes down or goes up. You don't hear some economic news and the market shoots up or shoots down.
Right.
The real estate market moves slower. The asset's not as liquid because you don't buy and sell them today typically.
Yeah.
It's not a cash. It's not an asset like the stock market that can easily be liquidated, which means the market's going to absorb the information. Job losses are going to come through. People stop paying. Investors pull out of the market.
Yeah.
So once all these factors actually start kicking in, we're going to see the market move in quarters. And I believe next quarter is going to be lower than this quarter.
Oh, for sure.
The next quarter is going to be lower again, but it's not going to be this like 50% all hell breaking loose kind of a deal. It's going to take a little bit of time for the market to truly absorb where that support level is for investors to come back and say, yep, we're ready to buy again.
Yeah. And again, I think this time is going to be very asset type specific, right? Because single family homes, at least in most markets coming into this, were undersupplied, right? There wasn't enough in most markets.
Yes, that actually is a really, really good point. And you're right. When you've got a widget like a multifamily unit where there's too many multifamily units,
exactly,
that's the place where the recipe for disaster kicks. Because now you got an over leveraged buyer, which means that there's going to be a lot of supply for the banks, but then the demand is low too. And so, yes, if you've got an oversupply and an under demand, that's a recipe for prices really dropping. And I just look at people paying $100,000 a door for multifamily. And my jaw is dropping. It's my jaw is dropping. And I see like 120. I watched a former student get in on a JV deal as an equity partner. And what were the numbers? It was something shocking. It was about almost 150,000 a door in Orlando for multifamily.
Oh,
I just look at this thing going, you're going to get killed on this deal. Like just killed.
Slight the money.
If you got $1,200 rent and 150, I'd much rather own a house. I think they're both crappy deals, but I want a house any day over a multifamily door. And so more is not always better. And I think a lot of people are under the illusion that 100 times more doors is 100 times their net worth. And like, well, it's 100 times their problems too when things go south.
Yeah, man, I own this stuff. I owned apartment buildings in the crash, and they're not a lot of fun. Yeah, economic occupancy and occupancy are very different numbers. And when cap rates expand, your ability to extract money from a bad purchase is gone. I mean, yeah, there's going to be a lot of pain and stress in multifamily probably for the next 5 years as debt comes due. You could do extend and pretend maybe, but some of these deals are just bad, and there's going to be an
it's going
adjustment.
to hit it all. And then if you take retail, so just we're not picking a multifamily or single.
Yeah, retail.
Think about retail. Think about all the restaurants currently closing the doors, or any store that you look at the big box stores, the ones that are left, by the way, because there's not a lot of them. The ones that are left, they're shutting the doors. I'm seeing a bankruptcy a day right now on my phone when I look at the news.
Wow.
And it's all retailers. Just, TJ Maxx, that whole, they're all gone. You're going to see car dealerships close. You're going to just see restaurants close. I think that the true bloodbath is these gigantic commercial buildings with no tenants. That's a real big problem. And then no one that wants to rent them at any price.
Yeah. I mean, what's the value of a big square box with nobody in it? It's not a lot.
So what's going to happen in the retail commercial space, they're either going to have to repurpose or tear it down and build something new. So there's going to be a big turnover, I think, in commercial retail space and even office space. Now people have tasted working from home. Are asking the question, well, why do we have to have an office? I can say, imagine you look at all the costs of an office going, I can eliminate that and have everybody work remotely. So employers and employees are now asking the exact same question.
True. And
I really believe, so when we talk about a new norm, I don't want the new norm to be everybody at home, but I do think for businesses, they're really evaluating the bricks and mortar, traditional office, everybody working 9 to 5 and coming to the office model. Because, even for me, I got an entire team working. We're closing deals. There's no office. And I hate it because I like the office. I like the separation of work. I like going to the office. That's a personal. That's a Lee thing, right? I like the office. But if I'm being really objective, I got to get some printer ink for some people working remotely. We may have to get some mobile notaries. But if you look at the totality of the cost, it's cheaper than having an office.
Oh, much cheaper. Yeah.
I'm sitting on the fence. So what we've done is we're renting out half my office, which will cover the office costs. So I have justified it in my mind that the office is not costing me anything. And
There
I
you
think
go.
that, but if I had a large rent payment or a large mortgage payment for some high-rise office, you know, $20,000 a month to control the floor,
Yeah.
I'd be crapping my pants right now, because that's just a large expense to be carrying that I think is just unnecessary
Yeah.
for a lot of business.
I think a lot of businesses are going to reprice space just of any kind going forward. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess the difference though, see with a house, what I found, I'm not sure if you found, it rents at some price. You know,
sure.
It may be 1,200, maybe it's 800, maybe it's 900. But once you drop the rent, you get a renter, right?
Yeah.
Or a qualified renter. So you get the renter that you and I would want.
Yeah. Yes. Answer. Yep.
There's a lot of these commercial spaces, which again is different than multifamily, where again I still think there's a price.
Yeah, I
It
agree.
may be a 30% discount or 20% discount. There's commercial space where there's no tenants.
No,
There's
agreed.
no demand. There's no price for that building. So that's where I actually believe commercial is going to get hit hardest. Out of the three asset classes, if we were to take a very broad stroke, I think that housing, there'll be huge opportunities in cyclical markets. I think if you paid a general brush, multifamily is going to get whacked. And I think commercial is going to get crushed out of all three asset classes way worse.
I totally agree.
Industries where there's large concentration of commercial, where society has moved past that, there's no longer demand, these big shopping plazas, that's going to be a problem. That's going to be a real problem. And I'm glad I'm not a large owner of retail commercial space right now, or even office space. I think I'd be very, very scared. I got one big commercial building. They get government subsidized. Traditional buyers hated this property, but I feel like in a pretty good place because Uncle Sam's writing my rent instead of a tenant that's going to tell me to go pound sand. So I personally feel good about that, but I still don't like the asset. I don't like that asset class. I'm scared. You know, you talk about like 80-90% where you're down to land value. I mean, that's disastrous. That's a 10 cents on the dollar asset. I mean, that's what I mean. When I say there's nothing to do with the building, that means you got to scrape the building. You have a piece of dirt. And so whatever the dirt's worth is what your asset's worth at that point.
And it absolutely
really sucks.
It absolutely can get there again. I bought most of my deals in 2010 at land value, and they had houses. So it could certainly get that way if this.
But I don't see single family. No. I will tell you the one difference I see this market cycle. There's what Wall Street did in 2012, and my mentor was actually at the forefront of institutionalizing single family as an asset class.
Yeah.
That game changer. The game changer of turning single family, which nobody thought could be done, by the way.
Yeah. Warren Buffett said it couldn't be done. Yeah.
Couldn't be done.
Yep.
But there's people that trailblaze that. And, you know, I'm thankful I know one of those people. And they fought a lot of resistance going, this can't be done. Yeah. Institutions can't own tens of thousands of homes. Can't be possible. Yeah. So they trailblazed, they did it. My big point is this. As a support level for you and I, we'll call ourselves mom and pop investors.
Sure.
It's 30 cents in the dollar before we feel great about real estate. But you start getting into double-digit cap rates, Wall Street's going to be like, yeah, we're going to start buying here. Yeah. So where I think what's going to happen this cycle is the assets that they want to own and control, that support level is going to be a lot higher than it would be for you and I.
For sure.
There's a huge supply of money. Wall Street's used to buying the asset, not just the paper now. They're used to owning the bricks and mortar. So that's, I think, going to be a big game changer. But I think there's an opportunity. The opportunity is whatever Wall Street doesn't want to buy, that's the stuff you and I should be going after. It's going to fall through the cracks.
For sure.
It's going to go through the same cycle, whether it's down 20%, 30%, 40%, 50%. I bought some of my houses at 70 and 80% discounts. Sure. I really did.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm going after the stuff that Wall Street's not, because I don't believe I can intelligently compete with someone with unlimited money. And I think the best opportunity is going to be in what they're not buying.
No, I agree 1,000%. And yeah, again, I don't see a huge downdraft in single family homes this time. The lack of supply, mortgage money is still relatively cheap for owner occupants. And also this is different. In 2008 crisis, people got single family homes that never should, right? They were getting into a house with less money than an apartment, right? So we pulled 4% out of apartment or renters, made them owners, and then they went back. This time,
can I rephrase that back to you?
Sure.
So I think we're agreeing. So people that should have never bought lost their homes last cycle. The people that should bought life has happened and now can't pay are a lot of the people that are going to be in distress this cycle.
Agreed.
And I think there's a big mentality difference in that too. Because someone who was just trying to pull cash out the front, was never a qualified buyer, they should have just never bought. But if you look at a homeowner that just did everything right, we'll call it everything right on paper.
Sure.
They try to do the right thing. That's where I do agree with you that the cause of foreclosures this cycle is different, which means the outcome will be somewhat different. I don't know how different. I don't think it changes my opinion that the market is going down. There's going to be lots of buying opportunity.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if you agree with this. The one thing that I see that will be different, again, last time strategic default became a thing last time. It was almost bragging rights.
Again,
hey, I'm not paying for 6 months. I got to live for free. They came, got me on Friday, whatever it was. That was a thing people were talking about. This time, I think what is going to happen, because again, you don't have that kind of buyer who was drawn in by easy money that should have never bought. This time, you're doing the right thing. You saved 3.5% or 5% or whatever. You did what was right. I'm actually thinking we could do some creative financing before the bank forecloses this time, where they're subject to or some other kind of workouts.
I agree with that, but I think what you're pointing to is the modification this time around is going to make a lot more sense.
Correct.
Once the bank intelligently can put, this is a good borrower in a bucket,
yeah.
You and I already know we're not banks, but if we're banks, the worst case scenario is a foreclosure.
Correct.
You're going to be way better off modifying someone than running them through the foreclosure process.
Totally
so
agree.
I think that the bank's going to have to come up with new methods to be able to understand the borrowers and categorize these people are deadbeats. Just send them through the process. These people are good people. Life happened. We need to work something out.
Agreed.
And I'll let you in on a secret from an interview I did with some of my private students about 2 weeks ago. My mentor said something that shocked me. Okay. So they're in the note buying business. Now they buy stuff at severe discounts. What do you think their most profitable exit by a mile is?
I don't know. No idea.
Okay, so they can run them through foreclosure. Again, they're buying them at steep discounts, liquidate them. They can just resell them to someone else, or they can modify them.
Oh, I'm guessing it's going to be a modification that they hold it for long term. I'm guessing.
No, they don't even hold them low term. They would modify them, stabilize them. And because they bought them cheap, they'd resell them.
Oh, that resets the value.
By a mile.
Really? Is it three month hold? 6 months? How long did it?
A year.
About a year. Okay.
12 to 18 months
crazy.
Seasoning.
So you buy it at 25%. You work with them. You lower payments. They get 12 months of on time. It resets the value of that note, and then they sell the note at par or a discount to par.
Correct. I mean, I found that's why I believe the big lesson banks is going to be is not treat every borrower the same.
Okay.
And if we really believe that a lot of people are in foreclosure this time, not by choice, not intentional, not playing that game, it's going to make a big, that I think will be the workouts. And how banks handle that, I think, will be the big game changer. So,
it will absolutely be a game changer when you compare size to size, because that workouts was not really a thing in 06, 08. It happened, but not a lot. It's going to be a big part. It'll be half, 40%, some number.
I can agree with that. I definitely agree, because if you and I both agree that a lot of people didn't want to go into foreclosure and now going into default, the bank has to change their approach. And I think the banks have learned a lot of lessons.
Yeah, that was painful. Yeah.
And now they have they have a division to handle property when they were in the business of just buying paper and selling paper and originating loans and selling loans. So the banks, I think, are a lot better prepared this time around. And I'm confident that they're going to adapt to categorizing their borrowers and not making a one size fits all.
Yeah, decision. I totally agree. Last time was very one size fits all. Everybody's the same. Everybody gets don't pay for 90 days. Then we try short sale. Then you do deed in lieu. Then you foreclose, right? Those an assembly line last time, right? Correct. Everybody was the same.
But also they didn't have a track record to even have historical data to point back to. I think they do now, and they can see what worked. You got to understand, as dumb as we think banks are, and I deal with a lot of asset managers.
Sure.
They'll show me their calculation, REO, workout, deed in lieu, and they look at the time value of money, and they look at the holding cost, the property price. They got this thing dialed into a penny. I mean, they really do. As far as what they want and understanding the numbers, they're not dumb.
Yeah.
They really do understand the numbers on these assets. That's why you saw them slow playing as, once the market started to recover, if you notice, the foreclosure pulled off the market
For sure.
because the banks wanted to drip them out, going, well, we can have this borrower sit in this house for another 3 years and it's worth 30% more.
Yeah.
So they weren't that mad about kicking people out in an upward market. So I've seen the progression of the banks thinking on this. I believe that we're just going to see a different approach. But there's also going to be a lot of opportunity because, as you know, there's always stuff that falls through the cracks.
Totally
Opportunistic investors focus on the things that other people aren't focused on. They trailblaze a niche. They wait till people catch up, and then they get out and they move on to the next niche before everybody else. That's where I've always made my money. It's where I'm going to continue to make my money.
Well, let's close on something like that. Because again, let's say you've been in the business 5 years or less, even 2 years, you've had some success. Again, tomorrow's different. You need to understand that. You need to buy better, right? You talked about that earlier, right? You need to control better. What else can you give? What other advice you'd give for that person? Let's assume it's a one person shop, maybe them and their wife or their husband, not a big company. What do you tell that person to get ready for?
Flip houses today, stack cash, watch and wait for buy and holds.
Yeah.
When the opportunity exists, be patient. Be patient is a big piece of advice. Don't try to jump in because you think COVID equals opportunity. Yeah. COVID has started. Is the catalyst for the start of a market decline. That doesn't mean the opportunity. You're going to have to be patient. You have to wait 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, maybe 2 years. But at some point, it's going to make sense to buy. But just because the event happened today, real estate moves in quarters, moves in trends. So I think patience, shorten your revenue cycle, focus on generating quick cash and making, getting quick kills and taking the money home, transferring the risk onto your buyer. These are all going to be smart moves.
Awesomely. Well, thank you for giving me your time. Feel better, man. Stay healthy. No more getting sick. All right.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, brother. Take care of yourself. Thanks.